bulk ACI tenant automation using Python loops. Okay, everyone. So on our previous video, we took a look at the ACI toolkit. Now we are going creative. We want to leverage the existing code and also bulk config. We want to mass config a lot of objects. And what better way of doing this if we can just leverage the same code that we already have available. So what I'm going to do, if you remember, we deploy a Python script that built a tenant called ACI Toolkit Demo, along with the app profile, the EPGs, the bridge domain, the VRF, and finally, the contract. Okay? So with that said, now, you know what? Let's do a little bit more intense automation. I'm not going to build just one tenant. Let's build 70 all in one shot. Let's do that, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to grab the same script and we're going to do some modifications. We are going to add a for loop that is going to look for values inside a particular file, and then it will inject those values onto the execution, okay? So don't worry, let's go ahead and do this. Okay, let's take a look at the existing code. And this is the ACI demo contract Python script that you're going to find in the samples folder inside the ACI toolkit folder, okay? So this is the same script that we ran on the previous video that created that ACI toolkit demo tenant. And it also did the app profile, it did the EPGs and such. So it did a lot of stuff all in one shot. But now we want to leverage this same Python script, and we're just going to modify a little bit so it allows us to bulk configure, meaning that I will inject a file that has not just one tenant, but as many tenants as I want to configure, and one single Python code execution, it will auto-configure everything in the fabric, okay? So with that said, let's take a look first. Let me bring real quick the ACI APEC. Okay, so if you see here, right now, this is all my tenants configured in the ACI APEC, right? And this is what's active in the fabric. Now, once we push, and if we build 60 tenants, you're going to see a lot of tenant pages here. So let's work on that, okay? And this is the script. So let's go ahead and copy this whole script. I'm going to copy it. And I already built a blank Python file in which we're going to use this blank Python file to build our automation script. And it's basically not built. We're going to modify it to allow bulk configurations, okay? So let me go ahead and paste here. So now we have it here, okay? We need to add a for loop. And again, this training course is strictly for ACI. If you want to understand how for loops work and in Python, then I suggest you start looking at those wiki pages, go to YouTube, and also Pack has so many great Python books, as well as great Python videos that will teach you in no time, okay? So let's go ahead and let me show you what we're gonna do. This for loop, what it's gonna do, it's going to read a file that I will be populating with all the tenant information, okay? So let's say I am going to use the function with open. I am going to open this file, and I'm going to label it as config_file. Then I'm going to create another variable which will store whatever Python reads out of the file and data. Then in the for loop, for line in data, meaning that line is the position in the text file, then classify position 0 to the value 1, value 2, value 3, value 4, and value 5 and 6, and so on. And you can keep adding. So if you want to add another value, just copy and paste and modify it with 7 and 8, and you know the rest, okay? So with that said, what we need to do now is we need to relabel the variable for the information that we want to mass config in the ACI fabric. So the first variable is going to be tenant, and let me just abbreviate TNT, tenant. It's not dynamite. So the second one is going to be application profile. Let me abbreviate. Okay. Third one, let's do the EPG1. And we want to do the same layout that the original script has, which it basically creates a tenant, creates an app profile, creates two EPGs, and then creates a bridge domain and a VRF, and finally a contract. So we want to populate the variables there, okay? So the third one is going to be EPG, and this is going to be EPG1. This will be EPG2, and then let's do contract. This is a variable that I'm labeling, and then I'm going to store values from the text file into the particular variable, okay? So we got contract, and I believe, and you got to be very careful when you take a look at your configuration script, that you don't already have the variable assigned to something else. So if we take a look at here, you can see that we already have contract being used by something else, so we cannot label it the same way here, okay? So in this case, we can just add n as new. And then this one, it's going to be the bridge domain. So let's do BD1. And again, I am pretty sure that we already have BD assigned to something else on the script, so we don't want to, reuse that, okay? And then VRF1. Let's do VRF1, okay? So we got all the lines. Now, we need to build this file, okay? The way we do it, we just open a notepad. If you see here, the delimiter, or I would say the character that Python will interpret as another section in the data output is a comma. So every value that you create and you add in the text file, it's going to be separated with a comma. So then Python knows that you're now going to the next value. I'm going to do it right now, and you're going to know it in no time. So I have a notepad, and I labeled this to be, the file is tenant-inventory. So let me go ahead and populate the information. So let's start by creating the name, or adding the name for tenant. And let's label this tenant1. Now, comma, because we want to go to the next value. Application profile, app pro. Let's say app1. This is application profile 1. Third value, EPG1. What will be the name for EPG1? We can say the same. You can label it as you want, okay? EPG2 will be, let's label it the same way. EPG2, comma. Third will be the contract name. Let's call it contract1, comma. The BD1 is the bridge domain name, and let's just label it the same, BD1, comma. And finally, the VRF name, let's label it VRF1. Okay, so now we have the values for each variable. So once the for loop executes, it's going to start reading each line. Line 0 is tenant1. Line 1 is app1. Line 2, EPG1. And as the script starts asking for those values, it's going to use whatever is stored in the notepad to configure it in the ACI fabric. So it's going to build a tenant called tenant1. It's going to build inside the tenant1 an application 1 or app1. It's going to build an EPG1. Then it's going to build another EPG2. It's going to create a contract 1, a bridge domain 1, and a VRF1. Okay, you got it? Great. So now let's go ahead and save. Now we got tenant inventory. Very important. The tenant inventory file, or the file that you're going to be reading from the Python script, needs to be in the same folder as the script. So let me show you what my working folder looks like. And there you go. So this is my working folder. I have my Python script that we are working with, and then we have the inventory file. Okay? So both of them, they have to be on the same folder. Now, we have that ready to go. Let's now do the following. So we got this. Let's just minimize. Let me go ahead and remember, it's tenant inventory, so we want to relabel that. Tenant-inventory. And that will be my file. We copy it, and then, remember we copied the sample script that we want to modify? Now we need to inject this inside the script, and this is where the tricky part is. The position in which you place the for loop, it has to, I believe, is the most important thing. So you have to know in which section in the Python script, as the Python script starts executing, it needs to start going to that for loop, so it keeps iterating through every single line. And then it starts configuring based on the value that you added onto the text file, okay? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna paste the information here because we have a definition, right? We want to inject this for loop inside the definition, so once it runs, it keeps going line by line, line by line. It continues until it finishes all the lines, and then it finishes the script. So this value must be inside the definition, okay? And when we talk about the definition, we need to know that we have a particular section in which we need to inject these for loop, because after that section, it's going to start asking for those values. And if you see here, tenant app, so at that point, we need to change this, and you're going to see it now, to the variable that we assign in the for loop. But the for loop needs to be before this is asked or this is requested, because else it's not going to know what the value is and it's not going to execute. It's going to error out. Okay? So let me go. By the way, Python, everything is the delimiter will be a tab. So everything, the indentation is a tab. So you press a tab and that's one space. Now let's go ahead, and this will fall under the definition main, which is the definition for the sample Python script. Okay, so let me go ahead and paste this in. So now as it goes, the first thing that it's going to do is going to log it into the APIC. It's going to grab the credentials, and then it's going to start reading the text file in the for loop. So we have a with open, so then it grabs the information here, and then it starts reading it and then populating the values. Okay, one thing, I believe there is a section in which it opens the session to the APIC, so we need to take a look at that, because that needs to happen before, or else every time that goes through a line, it's going to ask me for a username and password. So we don't want that, right? So let me take a look real quick. Okay, there we go. Here it is. So this must be before the for loop, or else every time that the for loop executes, it's going to ask me for a username and password, and we don't want that. Okay, so let me cut it out of here, and let me inject this before the for loop, so then it will only ask me my username and password once. Okay, cool, this looks good. Now let me see what we need to do. Okay, now let's change the tenant value, because right now it's set for a single tenant. This is the name of that single tenant, but what we want to do, we want to populate the information out of the text file. So then we can keep creating more lines and lines and lines and lines, and we can then use that as our feeder for this variable here, okay? So the first value is the tenant name, which in my text file is TNT. So let me go ahead and type TNT. Done. So we got the first one. Next one, app profile, and this is the name of the app profile. We want to change that with the variable, so then it looks for every single variable in the text file. There you go. So the value of AppPro inside the text file will be populated here instead of that one that was manually assigned. Now we need to designate the two EPGs. And as a matter of fact, we're going to change this to be EPG1. So let me go ahead and change this to be copy. And let me find a replace. And we want to replace this with EPG object. We can do that. And then what it's going to do, every section where this is called, it's just going to replace that with EPG, because it's not web. It's going to be an EPG object. So I don't want to specify that it's web or not. I just want to make it more generalized. And let's go ahead and replace all. And there you go. All the values for that are replaced. So it looks better, right? By the way, it should be one EPG underscore OBJ. And then let's replace this with ABG1. And then let's add one, replace. Let's do the same for the second one, database. So this will be DB EPG. Now we want to replace this with object2, place, done. So now we have those variables uniform. We don't want to classify them as web because they're not web, a database. Okay, now what's the object one for EPG? EPG object one, it's the variable inside my for loop. Let me go ahead and grab that. EPG1. Copy, and here we are, paste, that's EPG1. Cool, let's do EPG2. EPG2, let's put it right here. Let's replace this static value to be the variable inside my for loop, okay? And let's take a look at what else. Okay, the context, the VRF. So we want to change the VRF to the VRF value. So it's gonna go through this, and then it's going to use the value inside the text file. And same with bridge domain, it's going to be BD1 and BD1 here. Great. So now we are just replacing all the values and static values with the information in the for loop. Okay. So let's see if we are missing anything else. Oh yeah, the contract. So it's going to be contract end. We want to use that value and replace the name, which was static to MySQL contract, with the variable. So then it reads out of the text file as well. Okay, so that looks good. Okay, awesome. Okay, so here's what will happen if I run the script. If I run the script, The tenant, you see the indentation? It's before the for loop. So the tenant will not get the value from TNT because it's actually before the for loop. So the indentation is a must. You got to make sure that you have a proper indentation in Python, okay? So we're just going to do 2 taps. So it has to fall inside the for loop so it works. Same with app, 1, 2. Same with this, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and you know the rest. Continue here, continue here, continue here, continue here, continue here, contract, continue here, and then same here, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Cool. Continue, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and finally 1, 2. Let me move this. By the way, anything that is with pound symbol, it's just a comment. It's not affecting the script execution. Okay, cool. And this, it's part of the end of the definition. It ends with an if name. So this information is to end the definition, right? So this will not go in the same position because this is part of this, not part of my for loop. Else everything must fall inside the for loop, okay? Alrighty, so you see this, make sure that it's configured this way. Now, let me see the values. So let me go ahead and run it, and we should see this auto-created. Okay, let's take a look and see if our script is good and it works. So let me go ahead and open my command prompt. So I got it here, and we want to, again, want to make sure that our inventory file is on the same folder as the script, okay? So let me go ahead and run it real quick and see if we were lucky. Python. You start with Python, then you invoke the actual script and press enter. And there's some syntax issue, but I think it still should work. Apex login username, admin. Okay, and now my password. Yes, it did work. You can see here, pushed the following JSON to the Apex. Name tenant1 and app1. EPG1, BD1, all of our info inside the text file has been pushed and configured on the Apex. So let me go ahead and take a look at the Apex. And there we go. Look at that. It's here. Let's take a look here. Make sure that this is here. This is here. Yeah, all the objects are here. Bridge domain, VRF, and finally the contract, which is contract 1. Okay, cool. Now let's bulk config. Let's make a list of tenants with all this information and push it all in one shot, okay? Let me go ahead. For that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use Excel to create that list. So let me find my text file. Let me copy this information. And let me go to Excel real quick. And let me paste. And let me add a comma, because we want to make sure that once we paste, it still has the comma. Okay, so let me go ahead and yep, perfect. So you can see here, we're making a long list. So let me make 69 tenants. There you go. Now you're going to see the power of automation right here. So let me go ahead and copy. Now I have to remove the spaces. So let me show you real quick. If I open a new notepad and paste, there's going to be spaces which Python is not going to like. So the way that I do, there's utilities. So let me go ahead and remove the spaces. I usually do a tool or online service that does it. Like there's pages that do it. I know that there must be a way in Excel. I'm by no means an Excel expert, but let me go ahead and just do a quick removal of those spaces. And let me go ahead real quick, paste here, remove all spaces, remove. And this is our formatted info. So let me go ahead and copy this. Okay, cool. So we got this copy. And let me find my inventory file, which is right here. Let me paste in. And we got now a big list of tenants and all those objects. And if everything works well, we should have everything configured in the Apex. All in one shot, okay? So let's see now. And after we push the script, we're going to see the difference. So let me make sure that we save the inventory file. Nope. Now it's saved. Now we press the up arrow and do it again, asking me for my username and password. management interface. And here we go. Look at that. It's actually going through every single line and configuring those objects all in one shot, and it's done. So we did 69 tenants in a matter of 5-6 seconds. Yeah, something like that. You can see. All right, so how can we prove that this actually worked? Let me go back into my browser. And there you go. All of them. Let me go ahead and sort. 1, 2, they're all here. There you go. If we go back, if we want to go 58, we should have app 58. Yep. 1 and 2. Bridge domain 58, VRF 58, and contract 58. Look at that. It's pretty awesome, huh? So this is why I'm telling everyone automation is here to stay. And if you can see, I just leveraged an existing script and modify it by adding a for loop. And that's it. You feed an inventory file, which will be called once it starts looking for those values and push them and configure them. And it's all done in one shot with a simple, that's it. Alrighty. So no worries. This file, along with the text file, will be provided in the video training course. So you should have that as a copy so you can review it. Okay. Okay, everyone. In our next video, we are working with the ACI command line interface. Thank you for watching.